He's on deep background. I call him deep throat.
Look, McGovern's dropped to nothing. Nixon's guaranteed the renomination. The Post is stuck with his story no one else wants. It'll sink the goddamn paper. Everyone says, get off it, Ben, and I come on very sage, and I say, well, you'll see. You wait till this bottoms out. But the truth is, I can't figure out what we've got. What else are you working on?
Happy Thursday, everyone who's out there listening to us. So, hi, Mom. Welcome back. Another episode of Riding the Bench podcast. What is this? Episode 8. Episode 8. I didn't realize we'd make it this far. On my right, as always, Chris Melville, committing offensive pass interference like a boss. And I'm Tim Curtis. We've got a podcast for you today about sports, like always. Chris, anything you want to talk about?
I didn't just commit offensive pass interference. I committed offensive pass interference on 2 players at once. That's right. That's how good I am. We're going to have a fun show here. We made it to the Ocho, folks.
The Ocho.
The Ocho.
Cool. We've got baseball lined up for today. I guess the World Series is a thing that happens in October.
Look, it's always exciting baseball when you get to October. We're in the thick of it, and we got something crazy that could happen here if the Royals can win a few more.
I've signed up for a couple classes in the African American Studies department at UNC. So I'm gonna stay here at Maryland and get an A. And then we've got a new segment this week. We're gonna make some picks of some upcoming games, and that should be fun.
It's gonna be a great time. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna love, and let's just get through it.
And we're gonna go really quick because we don't have a lot of time. So no, that is not you didn't accidentally set your podcast thingy to 1.5 times speed. We're just that fast.
We're just gonna be talking quick today, folks. We're speeding it up. First
Talking
things
like 40s newsmen.
First things first, I want to talk about this World Series. Okay,
It's happening.
So the Giants come out. Bumgarner pitches a gem, and they just make Royals fans everywhere across the country. Royals fever, baby.
They go 7-1 and they've got all the momentum.
That's right. They've got all the momentum. This is a team that hadn't lost the game in the postseason, and all of a sudden they just get taken to the woodshed by a really good pitcher and by an offense that was just getting the hits. And then, when some fans are starting to doubt it a little bit, the Royals come back, and they beat San Francisco in a way, and that's what they've been doing. They've been finding ways to win. And that night, they found a way to win with their just fantastic 3.5 closer bullpen. Okay, they've got closers in every spot.
I guess that works if you want to acknowledge that, the closer is a made-up position that doesn't actually mean anything.
So let me ask you this question, Tim. Do you believe less in the closer or the designated hitter?
The closer. The designated hitter is a real position that exists in certain subsets of the American population.
Okay, all right. So, but the closer is all fictional. I get what you're saying.
The closer is fictional, yes.
The closer is fictional, right? So the 3.5 fictional players that helped the Royals win a weird.
No, I'm just saying they are 3 great pitchers who come out of a bullpen. Well, there are 3 great specialists who come out of a bullpen.
Tim, let me ask you this question: are the players real?
They are real.
Okay, the players.
And they pitch, and the way they pitch is real.
So what did you think of that game?
Which one? What?
What did you think about that game? The comeback after you lose the first game 7-1. You got a game at home, and you erupt for 5 runs in the 6th inning. Ned Yost pulled the pitcher. He looks pretty smart. What did you think about that game?
It was baseball. Stuff happens. Like, I'm not gonna. I don't know. I don't like breaking down baseball game by game. It doesn't make any sense if you try and break down baseball game by game. Right?
Okay, right. So maybe a better question is this then, Tim. So 2 games in, how do you feel about this series? Is it where you expected it to be? Where do you think it's headed?
Yeah, it's probably about. I mean, I didn't expect either team to score 7 runs in a single game, but that happens. Guys, you just string some hits together, and that happens. But other than that, yeah, I expected this to be a pretty even series. You've got 2 teams that have like 1 starting pitcher and 3 guys who like to occasionally pitch well, and on each starting staff, you've got 2 great bullpens. You've got 2 offenses that sometimes like to hit and sometimes forget where they kept their bats. So yeah, and that's pretty much how it's played out. You've got Royals with 1 run in one game, and then 7 runs the next. Giants go 7-2. It's been a tight series. It's going to keep being a tight series.
So, as much as you believe in this, I mean, do you think either team has any sort of momentum right now? You think it's a wash right now heading to San Francisco? Good teams playing tight ball.
Yeah. Look, I wasn't joking at all. Look, how could you believe in momentum? The Giants just crushed the Royals 7-1, took away the entire spirit of Kansas City, and then, the Royals are just going to come back in front of a super pumped up crowd again and win 7-2. It's like, if you believe in momentum, I've got some bad news for you. Santa Claus is also not real. So
now I was telling you that story in our last podcast about that Christmas I had, and that came from my mom. She told me it came from Santa Claus. Now Santa Claus might be real, but at the least, my mom lied to me on that day. Hi, Mom, I love you too. Okay, so we're sort of going through this.
Momentum is only real in physics.
Momentum is only real in physics. Okay, so they go back to San Francisco. They play 3 games.
Mass times acceleration.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And this series could be over by Monday. You think that happens?
No. I mean, okay, sure. I think that, in 7% of the times we play this World Series, that'll happen. But I think, at least one of these teams is winning 1 game, and the other team is winning 2.
So, in the great unpredictable sport that is baseball, where nothing can make any sense at all, and everything's random. Sure.
I think that's a misrepresentation.
Right. Maybe I'm misrepresenting your thoughts here, but so I mean, do you think that either team? Who do you like? I guess is the question. I mean, who do you like?
Entropy.
Okay.
No. I mean, I have no idea. I just want to watch some good baseball, and I think that's what I like. I like watching the World Series, and I think if you try to pick this stuff, you're pretty stupid.
So you haven't been caught up in any of this Royals fever. That hasn't been doing it for you.
No, it's pretty cool to see them doing it, but I'm not gonna irrationally pick a team because they happen to have an 8-game winning streak that just happened to take place in the postseason.
Sure.
And all you idiots out there who think otherwise can just leave, okay?
We were talking about this before the pod.
No, you can't break kayfabe.
Well, somebody's turning heel, I think.
And there you did it. You just broke kayfabe.
Yeah.
Okay. So, baseball. Watch it. It's fun. You'll like it. All right, moving on. Next thing. We've got a scandal in college sports. Okay, we've got another scandal in college. No. We've got the 5,000 scandal in the last 3 years in college sports. UNC, the independent investigators study report finally came through yesterday, and UNC athletes were taking fake classes and paper classes, and writing that Harriet Tubman led the slaves to freedom, and yay, and getting A+. I think that was literally one paper. So
I think that one got a B+ though.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. The football program was definitely implicated, but this thing stretched from 1993 through 2011, and you're looking that goes from a last championship North Carolina won under Dean Smith through Roy Williams' tenure. Football, you've got times when they occasionally won 8 games. And all right, so what? All right, what's the takeaway? What's the lead on this story?
Somebody got caught.
Somebody got caught.
That's the lead on this story. Somebody got caught, but I think along that too is somebody with a really intricate, developed plan and system for doing this got caught. An 18-year system.
Yeah.
That went from academic advisor to academic advisor. And the new academic advisor came in 2011 and sort of was encouraged to play along with all this. I mean, But you know this isn't the only program, and you know still this isn't the only program that runs a shop like this.
Right. So, okay. What do we think of the program? Shoot. All right. Programs that do this, what do we think of that?
Well, it's you can look at a few different reasons for why they're doing it, but it doesn't disagree with the narrative that athletics are more and more becoming the most important part of this equation. And and they're being encouraged and will continue to be encouraged to put that in a more important spot.
Okay. Is this another thing that leads us to think, all right, maybe we just... Why are we combining these high-revenue athletic competitions with the missions of our universities, especially our public universities?
Yeah, well, it's all a pretty benevolent endeavor, and the large universities with large student bodies are great places to house this. It's easy to get people to come to these things, and and kids just want to play sports and all this. But more and more the aims aren't matching, and I think that there are going to be a lot of people that flat out ridicule UNC for this, and
well, they should.
Right.
Any program that does this should, and if they're more out there, they should be caught, because as long as athletics are linked to academics, this is stupid, and you shouldn't be doing this, because North Carolina is a top 10 public university. Well, it was, because you know what? A lot of people who graduated from there got to be feeling like their degree is pretty cheap right now.
Well, yeah. Or
rather, their degree has been cheapened by others.
Right. And I sort of have known that feeling a little bit, Tim, over the past 6 months, and sort of seeing all this and watching my degree be sort of smeared a little bit. And that's tough. And it's tough for UNC, but if you're going to do this, and a lot of schools do, and maybe it's one class, maybe it's two classes, maybe it's thousands of athletes, you're going to have a really hard time parading a system like this. Isn't it amazing? Aren't you amazed that they got away with this for 18 years? I think that's what was most impressive about this. No, I'm not,
because of the era it took place in. You're looking at, okay, I guess 18 years, yes, but I would have imagined maybe them it ending a little earlier. But that's, I think, a function of the people that were in place. I definitely can see this playing out all through the 90s and even in the early 2000s, just because of, there was less of a scandal environment as there is now and has been. But also, we've seen in the last several years people who knew things that were wrong and didn't do anything about them have been hurt. You look at Penn State, you look at UConn with their postseason ban for the former manager who became an agent and was sort of involved with a player, and basically UConn was involved in buying a player. And so, eventually even people who try to have plausible deniability in these situations have been struck. And I think part of the thing that we're doing now, where we're acknowledging that college athletes should be paid, is also we're trying to draw sharper lines between what happens with athletics and what happens with academics. And I think more of this might come out because of that. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I don't know which one's first. And I don't know if this has been going on and they sort of said, well, look, this is going on. What are these kids, right? Those sharper lines, I think, I'm not sure if they're going to help. I'm not sure if they're going to hurt. It's the degree to which you think it's beneficial for them to be students. And a lot of people defend this system by saying, look, there's still a benefit, not just to getting a degree, but to being a student and to being in these classes and being exposed to this. And when you hear about this, I think it really harms the perception of a lot of people who say, look, they still can be students.
Well, and you know what? Going off of that, who's hurt most by all this? It's really not those, the I don't know what North Carolina's good at. Let's say the journalism major at North Carolina. He's not really hurt by this. She's not really hurt by this, because people are going to say, okay, you didn't have an African American studies degree. You're fine. We still get that you went out there and you worked hard.
Right.
But for the players who did this to stay eligible, because, they had people who wanted them to play, but who maybe aren't going to have careers in the NBA or the NFL, they're the ones who are really hurt by this.
Right.
You're saying, all right, you've got this great chance for athletics to go to school, but then we're not actually going to let you get that education.
I think it's terrible, especially for sort of non-revenue sport athletes who may or may not have been involved with this, but even if they were not, will be assumed that they were. And it's just going to cover a really broad swath. And the question now is sort of what happens. I mean, you've got evidence, strong confirmed evidence, saying that this happened for 18 years. What do you do? I mean, what do you do for the wins? What do you do for the championships? What do you do for those former players? What's the approach that you take?
Right, it's a mess, and God help us, the NCAA is going to figure it out.
Right, yeah.
And who knows what that means?
So that's a question. I mean, what do they have to do here? If the NCAA wants to maintain any sort of power balance, and Lord knows that's the most important thing to them, is not looking incompetent and reminding people that they're in control.
They're really incompetent at not looking incompetent.
Well, they're bad at it. But the question becomes, I mean, does this have to be a big thing? And you've seen it before with the Penn State sanctions. People thought that was harsh at the time. Are they going to have to issue a sort of death sentence? I mean, is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, and it's tough to compare what happened at Penn State and what happened here, because they were somewhat all right. On one hand, you have both schools. There's the Penn State. The phrase we kept hearing it in Penn State was a lack of institutional control, and I guess you could say there was institutional control at North Carolina, just not with benevolent intentions. But this North Carolina situation. I don't know that there's going to be any sort of death sentence, but I think it would definitely be more warranted than it would be in a Penn State situation.
You think so?
I think there definitely punishment needs to be here.
Right. So the difference is,
but you need to somehow punish them while maybe saying to other schools, we want to find out about this.
Right.
If you've done it.
That's another point. If they lay down the hammer, what are the other schools going to do if they're doing the same thing?
Right. They're going to rush to cover it up and make sure no one ever finds out about it.
And if there are, 120 odd FBS programs, and I'm not making any sort of indictments here, I'm just going off of likelihoods. Let's say a quarter of them are involved in this in some way, shape, or form. What are the odds that they're going to track down 30 odd programs who are doing this in some way?
Right. Well, the NCAA is not going to investigate.
Right.
I think that's clear, and I think most of these schools aren't going to investigate. But what's going to happen is what happened at North Carolina. You'll have some new people come in and say, "Wait, what's going on here?" You'll have Rashad McCants posting whatever on Twitter about what he got away with at school, and that's how this sort of thing is going to break. And that's another reason why we're seeing more of these things break is the internet and social media, and athletes can say dumb things, and the 10,000 reporters that follow him are going to say, "Oh, really? Let's think about this a little."
Let me ask you a question that makes this different from Penn State, maybe. At Penn State, it was pretty clear where the culpability lied.
Yeah.
Okay, it was pretty easy to put a face on all of it. Sandusky was a large factor here, and Joe Paterno was sort of put into that, and the whole athletic administration. Here, the culpability seems a little more confusing. At Penn State, there was no culpability to the players whatsoever. Here, is there any? What role do the players have in this? Is it your fault? And
no, I sorry to cut you off, but no, I don't think you can blame the players. They were steered into these programs. They were told, hey, we think you're probably too dumb to pass a real college class. We're going to put you in these programs, and I think that hurts it. I think they're just as much victims as anyone in this situation. And
any sort of penalties that come down, though, so if you say they have no culpability, and I agree with you, any sort of penalties that come down will, of course, implicate them. Will of course, affect their trajectory, And
That's a tough question, but I think you can't.
The question is this, Tim: Is there a way? Is there a way for the program to be punished
Right.
that doesn't harm the players? You know, if they have no culpability here, and that might be an aim. What do you do? If you reduce scholarships, what do you do?
No, maybe you don't reduce scholarships. Maybe you reduce their ability to collect revenue. Maybe you say you can't have any spectators at your events for 3 years.
Mm.
You know, punish them, take away their money, and then student athletes won't go there, but then they'll have a choice fair, right?
Right.
I like Chris just used the air quotes around student athletes.
If anyone says student athletes, I have to do the air quotes.
They know it's true. The
And
NCAA's done a great job of hammering that into our heads, huh?
That's right, and they're having a harder job.
Right, especially in this case. You know, let's go with athletes. but I mean, you know, even you look at UNC lacrosse. You have to do this across every sport. You have to say no spectators.
Right.
Period. You know, they do this this is how they deal with bad fans in European soccer or soccer around the world. Is, you know, if the institution can't control, especially, you know, fans who riot and chant racist things, they say, all right, 6 months, no fans, because it's up to the institution to control things. And I think that's something here.
I
What do you think?
I like parts of that. I like that it punishes the institution. I like that it discourages applications, perhaps. I like that it discourages people from choosing the university. I think it accomplishes what you want a punishment to do. But what's so hard about these things is you really want to carve out, and if you think this is wrong, and regardless of whether or not you think this is wrong, if you think there should be a punishment, if you want to carve out a little nugget and apply it very locally, it's really hard. Because doing that and saying no fans, it impacts the kids who decided to go there and who love UNC basketball and all this.
So,
you know,
so if they love UNC basketball, they could keep playing for UNC basketball.
I'm talking about the student body, and I'm talking about the fan base and all this.
If you went to UNC because you really wanted to watch UNC basketball, you're dumb. Make better decisions, okay? Make better decisions. Go to a school because they have a great freaking program you want to go through, not because their basketball team won a couple championships in the last 5 years. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
So he's wearing an Argyle sweatshirt, folks. His neck got a little red. He went a little Archie Bunker. I'd never seen that before. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was good. No, I like that. We should have a segment about that, actually. We'll call it Archie Curtis or something.
Oh my God.
We're gonna figure this all out, folks. But I get what you're saying. It's just hard to localize a punishment, and I think that's what they have to try to do here. Is punish the people who are involved, and try to limit that as best as they can. But I like the principles of what it's doing, of what you suggest.
Okay. So that'll wrap up another, you know, oh my God, the NCAA is stupid segment. We do those about once every other week. Now
They make it easy. They make
it so easy. It's shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
We'll move on to our new segment now. We're going to make picks every week. This week we have NFL and NCAA football picks because there's not much else going on. We weren't going to pick the World Series because it's already started.
And you can't pick the World Series, folks, by the way. It's random, so.
No, you can pick.
I'm
just
I'm getting on Archie
the
Curtis
certitude is
here.
going to be a little
Yeah.
random.
Okay.
We've gone with money lines too. We'll start with the NFL. I've picked 4 games for us to quickly go over.
Yeah.
Start with tonight's game, Thursday Night Football. Chargers plus 9.5 at the Broncos. Broncos almost a 10-point favorite at home. Peyton Manning against Phillip Rivers.
They're giving a lot of credit to the Broncos. I mean, it's hard to play at Mile High, but the Chargers haven't been a bad football team.
Chargers have been a great football team this year.
That's pretty high.
You've got the 2 best quarterbacks in the league this year.
Right. I think that's too
It's
high.
It's a high line, right?
And not to mention you're talking about the NFL, right? I mean, you're not talking about college football.
Right, this
here.
isn't college football where stuff like that happens.
Where stuff like that happens. I mean, this is parody-driven league. Yeah, I like the Chargers to cover. I think some money can be made there.
Okay, I'm gonna take the Broncos. I like the Chargers and what they've done, but I think Peyton Manning at home.
At home, okay.
That crowd Thursday night, that road dogs on Thursday nights lose. And that's what happens. So, all right, moving on. Seahawks, -4.5 at the Panthers on Sunday. This is an interesting game.
It is.
So, you look, home teams normally get about a 3-point bump for being at home, right? So, basically, you're looking at the Seahawks as a touchdown favorite right now.
And that would mean something to me. They've lost their last 2 games.
Yep.
The Seahawks have, right? But Carolina hasn't gone out. They beat Chicago. They beat the Bears, which was a pretty good win, but they haven't had really a good win this season. And that's sort of one where you're looking at it and you're saying, you thought Seattle would definitely be better. There was a chance Carolina would be better. It hasn't worked out that way for either team, but screw it. Let's just go with the team that just won the Super Bowl.
Well, the team, they had they still have pieces on offense. They had a good win last week.
Right.
They still have that defense. You know, you hit some bumps on the road, but that's part of being the Super Bowl winning team. You've got that target on your back. Everyone's got them for you. The other interesting thing is you've got a West Coast team coming east.
Right.
That tends to favor. All right, did you take someone?
I like the Seahawks.
All right,
You're going to... Well, it's fine. Take the Panthers.
I'm going to take the Seahawks, too.
Okay.
I mean, the Panthers have looked pretty terrible. Their defense, other than Luke Kuechly, is non-existent.
Skins Cowboys.
That's right. The old rivalry, or what people around here like to think is a rivalry. The Redskins 10-point underdogs at Jerry World.
They're 10-point dogs or they're 10-point favorites?
They're 10-point
The
dogs.
Redskins are dogs. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Colt McCoy is going to be starting at quarterback for Washington versus Tony. The Cowboys have looked great this year. They have just one loss. Tony Romo's looked really good. DeMarco Murray has looked great.
There are 2 ways this game could go.
Yeah, 10 points is a lot.
Colt McCoy could have a good game, or Colt McCoy could have a really bad game.
Colt McCoy back in the state of Texas.
There are only 2 ways this game can go. And I think it's just as likely that that the Cowboys win by 17 as they win by 7.
Okay. So that should make this good.
Yeah, so it is pretty good. I like the Cowboys to cover there. DeMarco Murray, man. DeMarco Murray, and come on, Colt McCoy is starting, and Washington does not have any unity whatsoever. They're not winning football games. People thought they were good. They're not being good. I like the Cowboys.
That's so many points. I'm going to take Redskins to cover, not to win, to cover.
To cover, okay.
Let's be clear. It's a rivalry game. They'll both step it up a little. All right, final game. I think it's the game of the week. You've got an aerial battle here. Two aviary teams duking it out.
Duking it out, baby!
That's right. You've got the Eagles, 2.5-point underdogs at the Cardinals. Basically a pick 'em. Because it's 2.5 points and the Eagles are on the road, so you get the 3.5 point to the home team. The Eagles, their offense has looked better against the Giants. You know, Lane Johnson was back. The offensive line starting to get some cohesion. The Cardinals have that I think maybe the best defense in the NFL right now. They have a quarterback named Carson Palmer.
Never heard of him.
And a wide receiver named Larry Fitzgerald.
Those are good names.
Yeah, those are good names.
And it helps when you have good names.
It's nice to have strong names on the team.
It builds you confidence. Right, so this could go either way. I'm sort of surprised. The 3-point bump, right? But that tells me that the Cardinals were favored initially by 0.5 point. No, the other way. Math is hard sometimes. I like the Eagles. They've been playing good football.
Got a battle of division leaders. You know, the Cardinals are first place in the tough NFC West.
You're not going to choose against your Eagles, though, Timmy. Don't tell me you will.
No, I'm taking the Eagles. Oh my goodness, the Eagles are. This is a lock. Okay, Eagles they're winning this outright.
As a Philly sports fan, this is interesting to hear from you. I'm not sure if you're reverse jinxing or what's going on.
No. Wait, yeah, I'm reverse jinxing the Eagles into losing.
There's a lot of jinxing going on. We're going to move on to the NCAA real quick. I've got a line for you here, Tim. Oregon at Cal. And Oregon -18 at Cal.
Yeah.
They are giving all the respect back to Oregon. They're saying, just kidding, Arizona didn't happen, you're the Oregon we thought you were. Oh, and Cal, you're still really bad.
Well, okay, so 2 things. You got the offensive line is looking better at Oregon. So that's a factor. Once they can get the rushing game going, that's the thing. I'm still taking Cal because 18 points is a lot.
18 is
on the road.
Ridiculous on the road. I'm taking Cal as well. I think I'm going to drop out of journalism school, take all my money, and go get a house in Vegas because I'm about to double up.
Ooh, I'm not locking this one up, though. That's a...
I think Cal's going to be all right. They played UCLA tight. 18 just isn't going to happen. Maryland and Wisconsin, 10 points. Maryland dogs out Wisconsin. What do you think about that?
I'm going to take Wisconsin.
You're going to take Wisconsin.
Yeah, Maryland's due for a letdown. Speaking of a reverse jinx.
Speaking of the reverse jinx, I think Maryland's going to be okay there. I think Wisconsin's not great. It's tough to play at Wisconsin, but Maryland winning some games and keeping some games close aside from the Ohio State game. All the games close aside from that. Michigan State. Michigan 17-point dogs at Michigan State. Michigan, fun fact, won a football game a little while back. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Michigan is allowed to win football games?
Michigan is allowed to win football games this year. Come on, that's a rivalry game. You're saying 17 points. It's a lot of respect to Michigan State. What do you think?
Oh my God, you could not give Michigan State enough points in this game. I think this is going to be a blowout. Oh my goodness.
It's just going to get ridiculous.
First, Michigan has to score against that Michigan State defense, and that is not going to happen. In fact, I think there's a pretty good chance it's a shutout.
What you don't understand is that they have a quarterback with a really high numbered jersey, which is always a good idea.
Oh, you're right.
And then my last one here, Ole Miss at LSU. Ole Miss only favored 3.5 points.
Right, only favored 3.5 points. No big deal, just for the number 23 team hosting the number 3 team in the country. That's interesting, isn't it?
I don't know. I look at that and I say, okay, well, you're going to...
Oh, Ole Miss is favored 3.5.
Ole Miss is favored 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Right. Ole Miss favored 3.5. I'm very surprised by this. They're giving a lot of respect back to LSU, who's had some bad losses this season, just big losses. I don't see that happening. If they're losing big, and Ole Miss has been a good football team.
Okay. So if Michigan State was my lock, LSU at home is close to also being a lock because I think LSU wins this game.
You think LSU beats Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think and they beat them by a touchdown.
Oh my goodness.
Woo! What about you? Oh, you made your feelings clear. But
I made it very clear. Ole Miss is going to cover.
All right, so that's our picks. Obermans are next.
Woohoo!
Chris, we're back, and now it's time for Obermans. So, what's your Oberman?
I was inspired, Tim, by the fake UNC classes thing. So I thought, what are some classes maybe they attended? They were in some papers on.
I bet you I took some of them.
Yeah, I bet you did. Why Duke caused the recession. The football and you. A love story. Shh, don't tell the NCAA. An introduction. Sports Center, top 10 plays. What can you do? Why Carolina Blue is totally not girlier than Duke Blue. The letter M. 202. 101. Evaluating sleep patterns in young adults. Harry Potter. True American Heroes. Dean Smith, Roy Williams, Michael Jordan, Billy Crudup. Okay, Billy Crudup's kind of cool. How to get away with murder. In your school's reputation. And finally, can I get a drum roll, Tim? How to make sure no one ever finds out about this by Bob McDonnell.
Where's Paul Schaefer?
I was having some fun. What's your Oberman, Tim? Let the world hear.
All right. So, 2014. You know, it was 20 years ago. Oh, what did we talk about earlier? World Series, right? So 20 years ago, who was in the World Series? I'm asking you.
I don't know.
You don't know? That's because there wasn't a World Series. It was canceled because Bud Selig wanted to screw over the players. All right, they wanted to institute a salary cap in baseball, keep the players from getting more money, man. While baseball, of course, is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but we'll ignore that. And so, that wasn't just 20 years ago. This is also the last year that Bud Selig will be commissioner of baseball. They've elected his commissioner, or his successor, and unless, Bud decides to go on another power trip, Rob Manfred will be the new commissioner. So I just thought it was an appropriate time to look back and remember at all the terrible things Bud Selig has done over his career. Like canceling the 1994 World Series. That was the Expos' last best chance at a world championship. If that doesn't happen, maybe the Expos are still around. All right, maybe we still have that great logo and that terrible stadium. You know what else he's done? He introduced wild card. Actually, that's not so bad. Then he introduced a second wild card. That's pretty terrible. We have interleague play. That's actually okay. I'm okay with it. We went to the year-round interleague play though, and I kind of am not okay with that. We have the continued unbalance with the DH. If you're gonna go to interleague play, why not remove the DH from one league, or more likely add the DH to another league? We have the steroid witch hunt to help cover up the fact that he covered up steroids. Let's see. Someone believes he was the best commissioner in the history of baseball. That's stupid. Yeah, so he's done a lot. We have the World Baseball Classic. That's great. On the other hand, black participation in baseball has dropped. Young participation has dropped. You'll have a lot less young viewers. The cable bubble is going to burst, and he doesn't get the flying hoop because, he's going to be out of office by the time everyone loses all that money. So in sum, Bud Selig, you suck. We're not going to miss you.
He's got a family.
I don't care.
All right. Okay. Well, that was our inspired, if not somewhat hateful, Obermans. What do you got? I mean, sorry, we're millennials. That's what we do.
Yeah. All right. We hate on people.
That's right.
Thanks for listening to this. Actually, I think it was a pretty angry episode of Riding the Bench.
All around.
Put us in, Coach. Damn it. Anyway, I'm Tim Curtis. You can follow me at Timmy Curtis. That's Chris Melville. You can follow him at
Krav Magav.
That's not true.
That's Krav Melville.
Yeah. You can follow the podcast at RTB Podcast on Twitter. We're also on Gmail. We're writingthebenchpodcast@gmail.com. Our WordPress, writingthebench.wordpress.com. writingthebenchpodcast.wordpress.com. I think we're going to be moving to YouTube now as our host, but we're still figuring some of that stuff out. So if you missed our last episode, it's all your fault for not, playing it directly from the files on our computer. That's all we have for today.
All right.
I'll see you next week.
Stick it to the man.
Ooh.